Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hard Things Podcast. This is your host, Blaine Burgess. I didn't forget my own name, just a slight pause. It has been a long day, everybody, but we're here and we're recording the episode that we missed last week. Technically, I missed an episode 2 weeks ago, recorded that one last week. I had intended to record this episode a couple days ago, but once again, inspiration strikes when it will, and just didn't quite hit me. I needed to kind of noodle on some things just a little bit longer. So what I have is going to be pretty much a kind of a 3-episode series. So starting with this one, there's going to be the next one after that, and then basically a third one all before the end of the month of June. So right now it's June 19th, and about the next 10 to 11 days, 3 episodes released. And yeah, it's all going to be kind of around a similar topic. Last episode, I had a catastrophic meltdown. An accidental yank of my podcast recorder off of the counter that I was working at, and basically lost the first 15 minutes of episode 60. This is obviously episode 61, but I did turn it back on, start recording again. I assumed that I was going to get all the data, the kind of the part 1 and part 2, and just didn't. Part 1 just wasn't, the audio file was corrupted when I tried to upload it, and the second part was completely fine. So the second part, it is. But this is really quick. I'm going to do a reminder of kind of what we went through last time. So this is the 30-second version of that. Last time I talked about the 3 marks of existence. So basically, in Buddhism, existence is impermanent. Suffering will happen. And then last thing is kind of the concept of no self. So we do kind of have a soul when we're here. We take on a personality, and we have likes and dislikes and things like that, and we try to exert our influence on the world. But when our physical body ceases to exist, basically that essence leaves the body or disappears, or we don't quite know what happens to it. So those are the 3 marks of existence, and obviously too, it can be a kind of a pretty dark thing to think about, but also I think it's a little bit liberating. It just kind of, it's an acceptance. I actually had someone I was talking to earlier today tell me that they agreed with something that I sent them. It was a quote by an author. And I said to myself, I thought, okay, so we agree with things, and that assumes that we know enough that we're a good judge. I thought that was a really interesting thought. Because genuinely, when I hear truth, it resonates more with my heart rather than my brain. A lot of times my brain will try to resist the truth and prove it wrong. And reality, life, will show you again and again that you're just wrong, and things are the way they are. We do have some influence. We can exert effort towards a goal. But life will let you know if it's the right goal or not, because it's going to hold you down if it's not the right one. So all that to say, today we're going to get into kind of the light side of that, kind of the more hopeful, noble, so to speak, side of that. Because we don't want to stay. You want to, acknowledge the dark side of life, but then once you accept it, again, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to say, this is how I wish things are. You just have to accept the fact that this is the way things are. And then you can start to exert real power, so to speak. So this episode is going to be called Noble Gases. And in a way, I don't know, I think a lot about the concept of like Superman, like what the Germans call the Übermensch, the ultimate man or woman, genuinely. The best human being that could exist. And this isn't even Superman in terms of the comic book, although the comic book figure absolutely takes on a lot of these qualities. But that noble, the concept of being noble, I actually really like this definition, so I'm going to pull it up. There it is. Having or showing fine personal qualities or high moral principles and ideals. The rest of it is about like kings and queens. So I think it's important to have, obviously, fine personal qualities, high moral principles and ideals, and just know that as human beings, the three marks of existence, suffering, no lasting essence, and impermanence, we're going to fall short. It's never going to be perfect. And yet, to be noble is the highest goal. And it should always be your goal, even though you will likely never reach it. And sometimes people reach it in their final moment. I can think of like soldiers who fight and die in wars, important wars that create safety for decades to come. It's some of the noblest things you can do. There is just general sacrifice for people, just based on love. Even if it's not someone you just know that they need something in that moment. You can give it to them. That's kind of a noble sacrifice. So that's kind of where my mind is at. And one of the noble gases actually is krypton, the element krypton, named aptly because krypton's actually Superman's home, but kryptonite is actually Superman's. That's literally kryptonite. It's the word for someone's weakness. So, in a way, nobility is a high goal, but it also can leave you vulnerable. Putting yourself out there, trying to help people, you can be vulnerable. I always think of the example of if you're in a pool and someone's drowning, they're kind of in fight or flight survival mode, and as soon as you get out there to help them, they can kind of pull you down and almost either take you with them or use you to kind of propel themselves out of that situation. And that happens in life more often than you might think, and it happens to a lot of people all the time. And when people do it to you enough, you get scared and kind of stop trying to help until, I think it's our job as humans to be as strong as possible. And despite people trying to kind of drown you, it's continuing to try to help people no matter what. And also keep yourself alive at the same time. So striking a balance. You probably heard me say that a lot lately. But anyways, we're going to get into it because this, again, I want to keep this episode a little shorter, and the next one is going to be kind of in concert with it, and the one after that as well. So, the Four Noble Truths, I'm just going to name them. We're going to go down through it. So, the first one is the truth. And this goes back to the three marks of existence. So, all beings experience suffering during their lifetime. And again, it doesn't have to be all the time. And there's a difference between pain and misery. Misery is choosing to kind of lean into that pain. But once again, with Buddhism, you kind of accept the pain, use it to shape yourself, use it to get better, find the positive, the silver lining, and you can kind of go through these Four Noble Truths and make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Number 2, the cause of suffering is craving and fundamental ignorance. I think a lot of times there's a lot of religions that say when we're born, we are perfect. And, you notice kids a lot of times, they have a lot of really good habits. My niece and nephew are the sweetest. They hold each other's hands. They share. Obviously sometimes they throw fits and they're maybe a little off. But in general, just sweet, sweet kids. And we try to protect that sweetness, for as long as we can. So ignorance, I believe, comes about when, once again, maybe people have pulled you down and tried to drown you inadvertently, have been unkind. Kind of the more suffering that you experience, the more you kind of dumb yourself down. You block yourself off from the feelings of love and things that would motivate you to try to help people. And kind of stick your head in the sand and crave a way out. Basically crave a way to end the suffering, and kind of looking all around and using everything you can to try and do that, and listening to people when they try to sell you ways to do it. And that's our society to a T. Everybody's got a way, there's some new company out there that's doing this new thing, and this will be the way out, and there are shortcuts everywhere. And I saw a great quote today. It was shortcut has to find you working. Shortcuts are great, but you still have to work really super hard. With the shortcut, you'll get there faster. And even, too, if it's something that comes easy to you, if this is a skill that you are just number one in the world at, and you work really hard at it, you're going to be the best. It's kind of like a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, just to use an NBA example. So anyways, ignorance of the fact that suffering needs to be accepted, and craving a way out of suffering and other than acceptance is the cause of suffering. And then 3, we have the cure. So the cessation of suffering comes with the cessation of craving. And once again, craving a way out of suffering. And I have several great ways out of suffering that are my chosen vices. And time again, I find myself, I get to a really good place with it. And I kind of, quote unquote, heal my spirit, my soul, and erase my ignorance and accept suffering. And then once I feel pretty good, I challenge myself again. And this is what humans do. We try to expand. And as you expand, you get back into more suffering. And the more suffering you feel, the more craving you have to get out of it. And you kind of lean back into that ignorance. But really, I think, and I don't know why I have this feeling. I have a feeling, though, that soon, for me in my path, just the way I feel about it, the way I feel about these Four Noble Truths, I have found a way to cease craving. I have ceased the craving. And I think the only reason I would still try to tap into it is because I'm afraid of what's on the other side of that. Now I understand that the craving is the problem, and I accept that. And I think the step now is figuring out what's on the other side of that. So if there's no craving and I accept suffering, it's not wrong to enjoy life. So it's figuring out how to enjoy life without, I think it's easy to try to be a monk and go to a monastery and live away from the world, but I want to live in the world, and I want to live with all of the kind of, traps and tricks and all this stuff, live amongst it, because it is fun. And that's also how you get others to kind of join you. You get others to understand, like, hey, I'm suffering because I let these things rule my life. I want to live with the things that I crave without craving them, and be able to enjoy them, as I want, consciously. Because that's part of life, is enjoying what we're here, to do, and enjoying, the fruits of that labor. So, and then the path. So the fourth piece is the path, and the Buddhists made a list of 8 kind of things to think about, ways to orient yourself so that you can enjoy life without craving, just kind of the way I just said. So you have the truth, the cause, the cure, and the path. And it seems rather simple, and to be honest, the first one is really the one I think it takes the longest to swallow. And you think that, life doesn't have to be suffering, and then you go through life trying to either avoid suffering or find, either intense or lasting pleasure and security, and you just find out that it's just not possible. At least not in the way the world is right now. I think if more people could collaborate and trust each other, I think we could create a world with less suffering. But because everyone's pretty suspect of each other and trust is a little bit lacking, we got a long way to go. So at least in the world as it is right now, June 19th, 2025, I believe what I said is true. So in terms of these Four Noble Truths, if you move through them in order, everyone's kind of stuck digesting one or the other. So I think for me, I got to the truth maybe like 2022-ish. So like 2 or 3 years ago. And the cause, I've known the cause. And I kind of had to confirm it in a couple years after that. And right about the time I signed up for chiropractic school, I started working on part 3. I think part 3 is where I'm currently stuck. The cessation of craving. And I know what my cravings are, so I'm not as ignorant as I was. I know that my cravings are the cause of my suffering. So I know what they are, and I accept the fact that it's causing me pain. And I do think I can, again, like these things and interact with them without causing myself undue suffering. But that comes with kind of just giving some things up, or giving up the way things were, I think is the best way to put it. So I do feel the craving kind of leaving. The thing is, so your mind can tell your body that we shouldn't crave this thing. But you almost have to go through pain. You almost have to feel pain in your body for your body to start listening to your mind. And for your heart, basically your heart has to change. Pain might be, I'm not entirely sure, it might be the only way your heart will change. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on understanding this. So I think I'm pretty close. Like I said, I just feel kind of the air about me changing. And I think once I cross that threshold, I should have more of a permanent kind of ability to be happy and enjoy life, and knowing that suffering will come and knowing how to deal with it, and knowing that I won't necessarily be the cause of it. I don't want to add additional suffering on top of just regular life circumstances that are out of my control. So I'm excited to kind of graduate to the Noble Eightfold Path, which I've been working on. It's not that I haven't been doing the things on that list. And I'll talk about that in 2 episodes from now. We'll have a little interlude in between in episode 62. So episode 63 will be the Noble Eightfold Path. So we'll come back to it. Anyways, so that's about 21 minutes on the dot. That's about it for just describing the Four Noble Truths. I'm curious to know, if you're listening to this, which part you think you might be on. I encourage you to reflect, look it up. And if nothing else, just accept the fact that suffering is going to exist in life. It's part of the gift of having this human body and this consciousness. Is the gift comes with kind of like a balancing, an anchor. It comes with an anchor. It's the old ball and chain. You got to drag that little bit of suffering around. But I do believe that you can change the constitution of the ball and chain. You can make it smaller. You can make it lighter. Maybe even make it float. And obviously at times in life, other people will strap theirs onto you. Circumstances will kind of come down on you to test you. And it really is all about how you respond. I can tell you, the way I respond to the truth is accepting suffering, accepting that it will be here, and welcoming it in and learning the lessons from it, so that I can be the best human being I can be while I'm here and be of service to others. So with that, I'm going to leave y'all until next time, coming back for episode 62 on hope. Give you a little hope, a little something to look forward to. So have a great evening. I'll see y'all next time.